The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business. From $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
Welcome to the Icons of Real Estate. I'm Tim Calloway. We have a very special guest for you today. Coming from today, New York City, but doing real estate in Los Angeles, New York, Miami, the Hamptons with Compass, Carl Gambino. Carl, how are you, man?
Great. Hi, Timothy. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for being on. I know you're a busy guy traveling everywhere. I think you mentioned to me you're in New York right now. Love it up there. Originally from not from New York. My wife's from New York. I'm from Connecticut, but love it up there. Good time of year too. How's the weather?
It's the worst time of year, actually.
I know.
It's pretty magical. even the winter's magical up to kind of Christmas, and then these are the months where you're like, all right, when is it over?
Yeah, exactly. I can remember. This isn't about me, but man, I remember being. I went to Radio City Music Hall around the second week of January. And it snowed 2 feet while we were in watching the Rockettes. This is years ago when I was a kid, and we came out and we couldn't leave the city to get back to Connecticut.
Oh wow, it's been actually really mild.
So tell me, I got to know. I mean, have you always? I'm sure you've always had like an interest in real estate. How'd you get started? Were you like 5 years old, going, "Hey, I got to get into real estate. I got to do something like that."
Well, it's funny. My grandmother's actually lived down the street from where I am right now in the West Village on McDougal and Prince. And when I was a little kid, I kind of spent almost every weekend there, and I would sit on the stoops. And I remember Patti Smith, the singer, bought the townhouse diagonal to my grandmother for like nothing. And my grandmother could have bought it for even less back in the day. Yeah. And I would sit on the stoop, and I remember literally talking to Patti Smith, and she'd be like, your family messed up. They could have bought this for nothing, and now it's worth millions. And that was like one of my initial, like, damn, like buying real estate is amazing at a very young age. Right. And I had a friend too that I think I was like going into high school. He was older than me. He would drive me around, and I would like beg him to show me mansions. So I always had some sort of interest in real estate for sure.
Right. So did you just, decide at 18, 21 or whatever, say, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to get my license. I'm going to find Compass. Or did you have a mentor, or did you solopreneur at most of your time?
I've actually been fortunate that I've had kind of many mentors in real estate and sales and different things like that. But no, I really didn't like school. I kind of always got in trouble in school. I started to go to like county college, but never pursued it. Right. It's like a ridiculous, like out of a movie story. I met this guy at a party that he looked like Glenn Ross, like Alec Baldwin. Right. And he came up to me and was just like, what do you do? And I was like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. And he was like, I think you'd be good at real estate. And I'm like, all right, we didn't even know each other or speak. He's like, come to my office Monday. And I went to his office, and he was kind of like, I had like gotten into like there's some trouble growing up, and I was just like kind of a troublemaker. And I said, I'm like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, I've been in trouble, things like that. And the guy was like, look, you see that guy over there? He went to prison for murder. And he's one of our top brokers in the office. Right. And it was a kind of chop shop multifamily firm, but they did a lot of deals and bought a lot of buildings in New York City. So that was my initial introduction to real estate. And they paid us $250 a week, and we had to make like 500 calls a week and cold call everyone in Manhattan and ask them if they wanted to buy or sell real estate. And we didn't have even like computers at our desk. We had index cards and these like giant phone books that you would filter through that were supposedly the landlords. Right. Which was kind of absurd because they traded so often that the books were often inaccurate. Right. But that was my initial.
Those are the times you'll look back on, Carl, that you'll go, man, that was never fun. But it gave you some grit, right? I mean, in the business.
It was like really difficult because the market had crashed. There was like no ability to make money if you weren't educated in the business or had clients just at that point, like in the very beginning. And I remember I actually liked cold calling. Like people would hang up on me. I'd call them right back and just be like, did we
Right.
get disconnected? And like
Right.
people would flip out on me all the time. They told me it would take 2 years to make a deal. I ended up selling my first property I've ever sold was in Park Slope. I think it was 7 apartments and 2 stores. I sold a multifamily building.
Nice.
And that's where I like initially got the bug. And then later on, I ended up stopping doing real estate, moving to Los Angeles, wanting to like do something creative, like write and do all these different things. And I went completely broke. I was walking dogs and doing all these other various jobs. And then my now wife kept saying, like, you should get your real estate license. You were always passionate. You loved it. Like, and I literally said to her, I'm very obsessive. And like, I'm a workaholic. I work 7 days a week. And I was like, if I get my license, I'll get unbelievably obsessed with it, make millions of dollars, but do nothing else. And she started laughing and was like, we couldn't pay our bills. My rent was behind. And she was like, please don't do that. And
Right.
that's pretty much kind of exactly what I did. Like, because when I do something, I want to do it like into
Yeah.
the ground.
Right. Yeah. I mean, anything's better than 250 a week flinging index cards around the office at each other, every time you get somebody on the phone.
Yeah. Well, what I kind of also realized in LA, I went into residential real estate, high-end residential immediately. I had met a developer that I was working for, who's my dear friend and one of my mentors. He actually works with me now on my team. He was retired and got licensed. He kind of introduced me to LA real estate. He had flipped a lot of homes and was like, look, if you've done anything in New York, get your license. You could do extremely well here. And he introduced me to Kurt Rappaport, who's like one of the top agents in history.
Right.
And I remember I was like pursuing him to meet me and he just like wasn't answering. And I was like, but I had been trained to cold call. So I like
Right.
harassed him nonstop. And one Friday at like 9 p.m., he was like, come to my office. I brought a resume and all this stuff. And within like 2 minutes, he's like, you'll be great. Start Monday. And that's how I started into LA residential real estate.
Nice. And so now we're talking LA, Miami, New York, and the Hamptons, which in my opinion, I couldn't even tell you how to get into that, sector and do it well. Even though I'm in West Palm, so we have some, familiarity with the type of homes and things like that. But how do you square yourself up in a place like the Hamptons? Does that just come from your contacts in New York? I'm not asking for any secret sauce or anything. I'm just saying, how does that happen? You don't just set up shop in the Hamptons and everybody knocks on your door, right?
Well, what I would say is it's kind of what I've noticed and why I've expanded across the country is first scalability. And then second of all, a lot of my clients all buy in those major markets. Right. I have many clients that will buy in LA, New York, Miami, the Hamptons place. I ended up buying a home in the Hamptons a few years ago as an investment. And then I kind of fell in love with it. And I had a lot of different clients buying there. That's actually our complete newest endeavor, which is going amazing. It's like very much free flowing and we're doing a bunch of deals. From what I was telling you earlier, like I built where every year in LA, I kind of focus on entertainment clients. I quickly realized that that's mostly what dominated LA. And if you represented them, they have access to the best of everything. I could rapidly grow my business. So that was a great way to like spread my name throughout Los Angeles. And I was fortunate. I had amazing clients and I've always been really blessed with amazing clients who have wanted me to do well and have always referred me. I've kind of done everything without even marketing until this point. And so I built a great business in LA over the years. And then I kept my license and maintained it in New York. And I would go back and forth and sell to people in New York. And then it just kind of kept expanding from there. Then I felt that South Florida, there was a lot of money moving there in the last few years. I bought a house on Sunset Islands in Miami.
Nice.
And I built the team there. So now we have team in Los Angeles. We have a director of operations, director of marketing, kind of a main agent assistant to the team. And then we have 6 agents there. In Miami, we have 3. In New York, we have 4. And in the Hamptons, we have 2 now.
Are you always expanding your team, or you try to keep it lean and mean and close to the vest?
I'm definitely always interested in expanding the team. Years ago, I did some show with Alex Rodriguez on CNBC. Like I don't like want to be on a reality show or any of those things. I did it. He's a great client of mine.
Right.
And it was like a 1 episode thing. And from there, a lot of agents had reached out to us and wanted to join the team. And I've had some that are unbelievable, and I have incredible people that work with me. And what I've kind of noticed though is there's like a certain specific type, and we have an interview process and what we want to like achieve. And if we're on the same page, then for sure.
Nice. Yeah, you're not just plucking people off the street. I mean, it's got to be the right fit always, right?
Yes.
So tell me about your challenges. I mean, if I had a magic wand, I mean, I got to tell you, Carl, if someone is listening right now from, say, Kansas, right? And they're like, man, that's really kick butt stuff. I love that. That sounds great. And they go through a lot of the things, no matter where you're at, right? Whether you're in Miami, LA, Hamptons, New York, doesn't matter. They go through some of the same day tribulations that you go through, I go through, so on and so forth. What kind of tribulations or things would you like fixed? Like if I had a magic wand and I could fix one thing going on in your business, not necessarily personally, but your business, what might that be? What do you go through that's kind of rough to work through sometimes?
For me personally, at this point in my career, it's more about like time manageability and spending time with my family. But what I can say from the very beginning, I'm very much of the belief that I started from nowhere and built a business, and that was very difficult. There were many times I wanted to quit. I didn't know anyone in Los Angeles at the time. I didn't know wealthy people. I'm very much of the belief where you can attract things to you if you like plan them and obsess about them, like all the self-development material here, but I've literally done it and know that it works. So in the beginning of my career, what I would say that it was very hard to not quit, to believe that I was going to achieve the things I wanted to. Like
Right.
I was at this Hollywood Reporter event a night ago and it was amazing. And I was like super fortunate. I won some award. And I remember I said when I won it, I used to walk dogs and be like, I got to get on those Hollywood Reporter lists. And at the time, I thought that was so absurd. Like I had never sold anything. My license was in the mail. I wanted to sell something for even just $1 million.
Yeah.
But I just kept reading all these different types of books to like keep my mind positive, because I come from like a very wonderful, loving family, but they're pretty limited. Like they're just kind of limited on where you go. Yeah. And like they were like, get a job as like a postman or something. But right. I always had this overwhelming ambition. I can remember even from being a child that I literally was like stuffing down, because that's not what I came from.
Right.
And what I could say, that's one thing, is like, if I had the ability, obviously like anyone would want this, but to back then see where it could go if you just don't give up and just keep going. And the number one thing that I tell new agents in the business is it's a mental game. Like people come to my open houses or want to film like super expensive listings or things that we have. And I'm not saying marketing is not good, but right. The number one thing to me in this like crazy competitive environment where there's very high stakes and super high highs and low lows is it's a mental game, and you have to convince yourself like 1,000,000% that you're going to get those things and those type of clients. Like right. I used to write down, I'll attract and work with these type of clients and I'll do this and have like certain things, but like read it out loud over and over and over again. And the main thing was to convince myself that I could do it. And even now it's like a different level of elevation on each thing. Now I'm like, I want to sell something for like $150 million, where right. Back then $1 million was crazy to me. And it's just a constant level of elevation. But to me, mentally, then mixed with obviously like taking positive, constructive action. And then the last thing I'll say for newer agents, to me, the number one or one of the top things is to just obviously meet as many people as possible, especially wealthy people. But even it's all the same. Like if you're selling in somewhere where the price point is 300,000, it's just right. Knowing the maximum amount of people. That's something I do as well, and I've always been that way, where one thing that I love about real estate is it's something that obviously everyone is interested in because they have to live somewhere.
Sure.
So you can literally talk to anyone about it. Like I'll talk to a parking meter about real estate. I don't care.
Right.
But it's an equalizer that you can talk to anyone about. And even when I was newer in the business, I would be like, oh, I just like someone would say, I'm looking here, or I looked at a house. I'd be like, oh, I just showed something there. Even if I wasn't doing deals at that time, I was educated and showing, and I knew all the inventory as well. That's another thing, because you never know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen. So if you're an expert in the market, you have talking points no matter who you come across.
That's it, Carl. I mean, you hit the nail on the head right there. And I've always said that from when I was, a young guy coming up, is I have always will be prepared to have a talking point in any situation that I'm in, and I'll find a way to bring it into the conversation. And, you don't have to be pushy. You're not a pushy guy. I mean, you probably can be, but you've got that way where you can just have that conversation, bring it into the mix. And why, and you said it, is everybody's interested in what you know. Everybody, because everybody wants a roof over their head. Everybody wants that next house. Everybody gets involved in real estate. So you better know your stuff, right? I mean, because you're going to be called out on it at some point, and you always should have a talking point. I think that's awesome advice. It's so good. I'm going to put it on your thumbnail for this podcast. I think that's great, man. I think that's awesome. So how would someone get in touch with you? I'm sure you're all over the place, but what's the best way to get in touch with you? Maybe, maybe they are looking to join a team. Maybe they've got $150 million house in Needless.
Email or text, always. My number and email is everywhere. And I'm pretty much, this is another thing, like accessibility, especially for clients that in all levels, but entertainment clients, all different kinds of clients, like you have to be available
Right.
a lot. So I kind of pretty much never have my phone far.
Always available. That's great, man. You should always be available. Carl Gambino, thank you so much for being on the show today. I've really enjoyed it. I look forward to catching up with you in the future. Have a great week, and keep doing what you're doing, man. I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.